what I want to talk about now is, I noticed we had some takes there that were already going a little bit against the grain of sort of the narratives being put in the LCS. Like, for example, people have billed it as like return of Bjergsen. Is he the best mid laner again? You know, like all these things. Obviously, the whole fudge role swapping Cloud9 has been highly touted and spoken about and was supposed to be an innovation. But the reason I'm a bit shocked is at the end of the split, when I see people, admittedly, there isn't the all LCS voting out there. It's not like LEC where we've already got it. But just from people making lists and having interviews where they talk about who the best mids are, it seems like everyone's just still on the narrative from the beginning of the split. Like I saw most people's lists were like, amazingly, Bjergsen number one, Fudge number two or number 3 were interchangeable. It was either Fudge or Jojo Peon. That's what most people's top 3 I was seeing were. And all the discussion, understandably, around casual fans was Bjergsen or Fudge, basically. They didn't even need the Jojo Peon guy. Now, what's bizarre to me is, like, Takuil from FlyQuest didn't seem to get many mentions, even though, again, look at that roster. Even as much as this might sound crazy to people, he was, as much as Dom said he was the worst import ever, Blue wasn't actually as terrible as people. How do you think Dig won all their games? Like, they had some carry games. So I wanted to get the take of this panel of people here and see where you're at on it. Because one thing I will give to the people who made these opinions is I will say they do have a point that it's not like the other names I'm listing are big names, you'll notice. You'll notice historically, obviously, Bjergsen has a lot of narrative baggage with him. He's on one of the best teams. There's another factor, right? These are the 2 mids of the 2 best teams, Cloud9 and Team Liquid. So I get that. Look, there's a lot of reasons as to why people might go immediately to those names. But where are you coming down on this, Jaska? Who are you coming down on? What's your sort of vibe for who the best mid laner is? How some of these mid lanes? You can take this wherever you want.
I mean, so the first thing you have to do is just understand context of like what kind of teams you're in. Aside from the rest of Cloud9 and Team Liquid, the rest of the LCS teams are just, aside from 100 Thieves, is just completely like garbage. No other mid laner has any kind of real structure to play off of. So when you're judging somebody like Takui, somebody like Ablazeolive, somebody like Blue, you have to look at them in the context of what their team is and what are they doing given the pieces that they have. And somebody like Takui has been doing amazingly given what he has. Whereas Bjergsen, there's a little bit of a comparison that you could make to T1 and Faker right now. And that all of T1 is a really, really great team. And all of Team Liquid is sort of the Western NA variation of that. And if Bjergsen was on the level of like a Western Faker, what he is touted to be, then Team Liquid should be stomping the LCS just as hard as T1 is. And so it's like, you look at how Bjergsen is playing, what kind of picks they're doing, how they're playing around it. And it's just like, it's really hard to justify him being the best mid laner when he just has the best team surrounding him and he's still not putting in these super amazing games.
Where are you at on this, Kira?
This is, like, positionally, for NA, this might be, like, one of the worst, like, split runs ever for a position. Like, mid of this spring 2022 is awful. And I think, globally, I don't think I would have any of the mid laners in something like the top 25 in the world. That's how low we're going down, guys. It's that bad. We're basically saying stuff like, yes, this is the brownest shit. Like, it's really, really bad. These are all, like, 5s and 4s out of 10s, and then the best player maybe a 5.5. They are very flawed players. They have very flawed champion pools. They have very flawed ideas about like the game and how the game is played because they're playing within the microcosm that is NA, and they're not even playing real League of Legends, but like a real meta of League of Legends. I think there's going to be some shocking things seen if NA mids don't see massive upgrades from them going and fighting the rest of the world in these positions. Because I even look into stuff as like the lower levels of EU, and it looks much better there compared to like the best of NA. It's really, really poor.
Okay. Yeah. Because the problem I have is like, obviously the counter argument everyone makes is the go-to goes like this. That's why I thought you set it up actually pretty well, Jaska. They all say, well, he still is in the best team, and you know, why does he need to carry? He has fucking Bwepo and Hansam, which is all true. But the problem with that is, it's like you're admitting yourself he's not the carry, but then saying, but he is because he's the best. Like, what? I don't know where people are going on that logic, dude. It's like they're trying to make my case for me and then tell me that the evidence for me counts for them. It's like, yeah, but look at all these games where he doesn't need to carry. It's like, so you admit he doesn't carry then? No, he's the best best mid lane? Like, no, give me a break. Like, what is it? Which way is it? Like, does none of the evidence ever count for me? Like, because I find that part so weird. Like, I will acknowledge it hasn't hurt Team Liquid overall. They probably are still going to win the split. But I'm with Yaski on that. Like, if you look actually at how good his team is, this should be like an epic team that he's on. Like, if he played like the Bjergsen of 3 or 4 years ago and going further back as well, this would be a very, like, the argument actually would be suddenly the classic one that normally is tired, which is what is the best LCS team like versus the best LEC team. If Bjergsen was really good, you could have an interesting convo around that. It's not a very interesting convo if you compare him to like Fnatic now, is it? Like, I think most people would take Fnatic all day long. So I find that a bit whack. What about on the Fudge angle, Kira? Where do you come down on him after seeing a split?
Oh, this just isn't going to work for C9, and it'll work like domestically, possibly. They can maybe get away with murder, but this on the actual like real League of Legends roles on real champions, team fighting's bad, his laning's bad, doesn't link up with Blabber very well, skirmishing's poor. Look at him on LeBlanc, compare that to Humanoid. You're not even talking about it. It doesn't even look like the same pack. It doesn't even remotely look like the same power levels. It's just embarrassing. And the thing is NA is sending one of these guys, in my head, to MSI soon, and they're not going to just get like 3 times 4 times better. And the champion, like mid champion pool, I don't think, unless Riot does something really crazy, is really going to move into like a really strange like supportive remit. Like, Fudge is just a very, very, very average to below average mid laner who has basically just listening to coaching staff, I believe, to just play out like C9 style. Like that Vigar game, when I would like rewatch it every single time, that pick, that's like what at the time was one of the most powerful picks, and his like fundamental understanding of how the pick should be used and stuff was terrible. Like, it was just absolutely awful, really, really, really bad, really, really poor.
Yeah, and he has the best, one of the best Vigars in the world on his coaching staff, who's just a Vigar one trick. It's like if there's any pick that he should be performing on, it's that. Like, that's the big problem. Point. That's the big problem that I see with so much of LCS, is that there's such a weak mid lane pool, but they're playing through mid as if they're the strong carry. They're playing LeBlanc, they're playing Syndra, they're playing Ahri, they're playing all these champions that need to have a really good mid laner who can be aggressive and be decisive and make picks, whereas you just don't see any of that from the players, and it's a complete mismatch of players versus what they're picking.
I also think if you just look at the raw eye test of these guys in lane, the whole thing everyone cries about for, like, we're talking like the better part of like fucking half a decade now or something. Since imports started coming to NA, all the fucking EU mid laners all just get there and immediately say, like, what the fuck is this solo queue? Like, no one even pressures in lane. No one fights for the minions. Like, people just play like handshake matchups. Like, the joke is LCS has been like that for years now as well. So when you also lower the talent, this is also why I hate this discussion. Is everyone really watching Bjergsen and Fudge lanes and going, incredible, they're dominating, wow, so good? No, you just watch it and you go, this doesn't matter though, because, you know, in the team fight, he's just going to know what to do. Like, there's the difference for me. I believe Fudge knows what to do in a team fight with that champion. In lane, sometimes I think he's lost, dude. Like, like the difference is, remember, this guy also comes from top lane, so let's not fuck around and act like he doesn't understand the concept of laning. Top lane's all about knowing when you have the edge. Top lane's all about knowing when you can push something, when you have to play safe, when you have to wait a few minutes for an item, a level, for an invade or something. Like, the idea that those concepts, like, listen, it's a totally different style of champion, which is what I think's fucking him up, but like, that should in theory be there. So to me, that implies he's just not a very good mid laner. Now, it is his first split, but even so, I didn't make them pick him, dude. Like, you're allowed to pick fucking mid laners, you know. You chose to go mid lane, not me. So I get to judge you as if you were, checks notes, the Cloud9 mid laner. That's supposed to be fucking Jensen. That's supposed to be a big nit perks. So I'm sorry, I can't just go, well, for his first split, it's all right. Like, no, you're in the top team. Like, you got to be really good, I'm afraid. Or at least you got to have the potential to get really good. So I find it a bit questionable, personally. What did you actually think on the Ablazeolive angle? Because I noticed you brought him up there, Kira. I think there's an example where, because of his team and the fact that he's been around a while, I'm sure, again, casuals are just going to go, why is he even in the conversation? He had some good games this split. He had some nice pop-offs.
Yeah, like Ablazeolive's been pretty good. I think one of the things major things that help him, is helping him right now is, I actually think there's a nice bit of synergy sometimes between Oli and Price Stalker, even though I don't think that highly of like Price Stalker in general. I think Oli's actually had like one of like resurgent split where he's like went back to like Immortals Oli, which was a guy more of the less of the laning style, more of like the what's his name? like map play style. He's like playing the map like Core JJ, but like not as refined as Core JJ, and he's trying to control it like that. And so I think Ablazeolive is getting like a lot of information. He's getting a lot of space made from in the mid lane, but he's actually using it up like pretty well sometimes. So there's like some prospects there, some like nice things there. He's one of the guys though that when I actually like isolate him and watch him in team fights, sometimes he can have some nightmare like moves. Like there's a couple of times I've watched him and he's maybe one of the worst guys for using flash for nothing I've ever seen in mid lane. It's quite bad.
Okay. I will say, by the way, as a random, I think it was even you who mentioned it on the Discord, but it's true, and I'd forgotten it on that episode. When we did that episode of Summoning Insight with Ole, and Ole told the story that it was actually Monty that recommended him to Immortals, people don't know the punchline to the story. That was the split where Ole was an MVP candidate, and they went to the finals. I don't think people know that detail. Mate, fuck around with Monty's eye test. That's fucking sick. He saw this cunt playing in fucking LMS in Brazil and was like, yeah, sign this guy as an import support player for fuck's sake. You are right. Like, support player in theory, the most dodgy import position you can do in LCS. Like, you don't get to have a laner. So, I think that's fucking sick, Reed. What a call. Right, do you have any thoughts on Ablazeolive, Yaska?
I think just out of all of the sort of NA mid laner talents that have popped up, he's just been the one who's just impressed the most. I always just felt like there was going to be something stronger to him compared to all of the other ones that I've like seen and like played against. Like he just has a little bit more sentience, I guess you could say. Like when you play against him, and he just feels and looks like he's pretty much just the best like native NA mid that I could see. And so he's a really just valuable tool to have for a team, because then you can just have 2 extra imports, and I'd probably say that he would be top 5.
I don't think I mean, again, if we're talking in the context of the team and what help you've got, I think if you look at his team, yeah, I think top 5 is reasonable. It might seem weird to fans because, again, they're used to the top 5 being all those household, Jizuki, Jensen, like, these guys aren't in the league, remember? We have to look at who's fucking playing. And by the way, there's names we haven't even mentioned. It's like, man, it gets dark when you go to the bottom of the LCS. Fucking hell, the mid lane pool there. Some yikes material. I'll also say as well, I think something that's actually, in my opinion, slightly underrated about Ablazeolive is, even though he actually does play like the champions that like the boring mid laner would play. Dude, this guy doesn't play like fucking Golden Glue or whatever. This guy actually is a stud. He goes for it. I like that. He looks like he actually has a killer instinct to some degree.
Yeah, and it's like if you're going to be on a lower level team, and one thing about Golden Guardians is that they're just knowing stuff about like their staff and how they sort of operate. They're not going to kick somebody for necessarily having like a bad performance. So they'll put confidence in their team to just say, hey, go as hard as you want. Just try to get us the win. We don't care if you look bad. So that kind of confidence from your org can definitely make it be a lot easier to sort of play aggressively as opposed to just playing for job security.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.